Please don't air any of this, Brad.
All right, we ready? You hitting it? Tell me when we're rolling. So we've been rolling. God damn.
We're Googling over here.
All right.
To nerd sports now, people.
Exactly.
Look out. Do you fear death?
Oh, one of the greatest lines of all time.
I've got a job to it. I've got a job to it.
Kind of like whistles at her, so Dad looks over and the guy's going. And Dad's like, I got the fuck out of there. I was like, oh man, you didn't partake? I thought that was part of the mountain biking community, that y'all just went out there and had sex together in your tight shorts. But
Angrily making me 30 sides of red sauce. He just hangs it back up.
So that's what I was doing wrong the first time.
That's what you were doing wrong.
Big Pharma's turning the frogs gay, and it's coming after your kids.
And they're going to make them incredibly happy.
Infowars.com.
Listened to so much. Are you...
Did you have a good time? It sounded like you had quite a few people here. Bands playing, the girl played. Yeah, Durham Fest.
Yeah, it was a good time, man. Honestly, it's one of those things where it was probably my favorite Durham show, my favorite Durham memory.
Really?
Yeah. And if you'd asked me, we did the last one in September. So if you'd asked me before we planned that show, if you asked me a year ago, I would have thought the band was done. The memories were over. What we had.
That was it.
2012. That's what we had.
Yeah.
And then you just and that was one of the things that I really learned from Nicole is, I'm not done yet.
Don't be done.
Don't be done.
Yeah.
And it really, man.
Especially if you still got it in here. Some desire for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
But we were, the first one was kind of. I don't think we had enough time really to prepare. It had been 12 years since we played a show. It went fine, but then also hosting it, I was kind of nervous about having people out. I'm such a recluse that it makes me nervous.
Over the whole thing.
The whole thing. And the first time we'd done it, my dad ran sound. It went great. It was a success. It was it was not a fun experience for me.
The first one.
But
last night was
nervous.
Last week.
This weekend I wasn't hosting. We had a lot more time to prepare. The set sounded a lot better. Still learned a lot. Still some things I'd like to tweak. But we had close to 200 people out.
So it sounds to me like you got plans for number 3. If you're tweaking now, you
already,
moved to tweaking.
We're gonna do 3 this year. We're gonna do it in the fall.
That
we also learned not
little
to do
bonfire.
This in June.
Yeah. It's so hot.
It was hot.
Yeah.
My dad was out there at 10 a.m. getting sound ready. He was out there all day long, man. He was a trooper.
That heat this weekend was brutal too. And we're not conditioned to it.
It was, and we're not. So this is episode 13.
Really?
I got to get you to sign my guest book on the way out.
Okay, I saw it over there.
Yeah, I need to get you to sign that. Episode 13, and you are Hal Henson.
I am.
Who are you, sir?
I'm Hal Henson. That's a question. Today, June 17th, I'm sober, Hal.
Yes, sir. How long?
Well, actually, today, June 17th, is my sobriety birthday.
Is it really?
I'm celebrating it with you.
Nice. How long?
23 years.
Oh my God,
yeah.
Sir, that is awesome.
Yeah, it's it's a great life. I love the life that I've been given today. That's different, a lot different than what I thought it would be at this time in my life, years and years ago. But I love what I do. Today, last several days, I've been painting, and I'm calling it reconditioning a house.
Yeah.
I've done quite a bit of that over the years, but it's been a few years since I've done it, and kind of out of shape for it. But painting and doing floors and trying to get it ready for some. My wife and I've created a nonprofit to provide housing for men right now who are housing insecure, in the sense that not just financially, but a lot of guys who are trying to change their lives, their home or the place that they could live that they're familiar with,
Right.
is not good, not healthy for them.
Sure.
To continue the path on changing their lives.
What's the nonprofit called?
It's called Held Housing Initiative. It's about a year and a half old, but it took us a while to get our first house in this real estate market. But our first house is full, and we got guys in there that we actually offered them, showed them our new, bigger house, nicer, newer house.
Yeah.
And as of this weekend, we had a house meeting last night with those guys, and they all said they wanted to stay right where they are. And part of that's because they're developing relationships with each other. None of them knew each other before a month ago, and they're they all have individual life goals. Some of their life goals are to have a full-time job,
Right.
for the first time in a long time, and some of them have got that. Others are trying to get themselves right so they can be right for their families.
Sure.
Others just trying to figure out how to make it through the day without some.
A crutch.
Well, they're not on their crutches. They're on. There's a lot of. So one of the there's a lot of people, but there's a lot of men. Surprisingly, how many men really struggle with major depression issues?
Absolutely.
Trauma response, PTSD.
Sure.
A lot of it comes from childhood. Almost all of our guys have had significant trauma
Right.
in their lives, and that's a challenge for them. But anyway, so but we're full. We're full in that house, and we purchased another house to lease to our nonprofit. So I'm fixing it up and been doing that.
So what called you to do this?
Well, I think one, my own sobriety. When I got sober in 2001, I'd lost it. I say I'd lost. I thought maybe this question would come up, and I was cutting the yard yesterday, and I was thinking, did I lose that stuff, or did I give it up by my choices in life?
Sure.
Yeah. And so I forfeited. Might be a better.
There you go.
I forfeited.
No, I like that. Yeah.
I forfeited a lot of things in 2001 because of the consequences of the life that had gotten a hold of me,
Right.
and with alcohol and other sex, and just really not being able to handle life. Looking good on the outside, doing well in the real estate business, and beautiful young family, and but I forfeited all of that. And so when I came back from treatment, I went to a treatment center in Texas for 3 months. And when I came back, I didn't have a place to live. I did still have my real estate office, so I slept on the floor.
Right.
Matter of fact, I think I told you James Gibson was my first hire.
You did, yeah.
Yeah. And then I had to close my office because they weren't going to let me keep working.
Yeah.
And so, so James went off and worked with Larry Robbins, and then he's blazed a trail on his own.
Yeah, he played bass with us.
I know.
That was a lot of fun.
That's great.
It was exciting to play with him.
And a great family. I've kind of known them a long time. So, but anyway, I slept in my office, in my real estate office, for a little while, and then a fellow realtor had a room for rent down the road, and so I rented that room from him for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I lived in a room, had a fold-out bed, and then I had a bed, and then
10 years.
Yeah, 10 years.
It's a good stretch, sir.
That's a long stretch to live with some dudes.
Yeah.
And but part of that was it was close to town. I was working all the time. I had child support. I had legal fees. I had, it was hard to get very good work, and so I worked a lot of different things. And I didn't need much. Car that ran, and a bed, just a comfortable bed to sleep on, chair to sit with, and some good guys. During that time I developed 2 different businesses. Living in that house, I developed a limousine business and a pressure washing business, and the pressure washing business took care of the limousines, and so it worked out. It worked out good. But so I had that. You asked the question of what caused it.
So your experience.
My experience.
Yeah.
It worked well for me.
Yeah.
And then I got remarried and have done other businesses and so forth. But my wife Lisa, 3 years ago, we've been in the hemp CBD business for 7 years with hemp, and really, it's changed a lot of lives, changed our lives financially and physically. I wasn't able to do a lot of stuff. I was breaking down, and my knees, I've had multiple knee surgeries and stuff since high school. Back issues as a result of my knee issues, and just really hard work. But getting on the CBD, this particular brand of CBD is really a good one, good quality one. Matter of fact, Nicole talks about it all the time. Yeah. So we've been in that business. But Lisa is a nurse. She's an RN. She's got her MBA. She hasn't worked for anyone else in 30 years, and until just recently. But she had gotten to she's really smart, and she wants to continue to expand her world. So she got what's called a holistic nurse coaching certificate, which is a year's training, and it was really a neat thing in how she helps people process their own decisions about their own health of all kinds, and really helps people ask themselves questions about their health, where they want to go, what they want to do with their health, gives guidance to that in a holistic way, and so she was doing that and finishing it up. And I saw something on Facebook or Instagram about this housing model out in Washington State. And I thought, that looks like something that's needed here. So they had a housing model for shared recovery housing in Washington State. And they had been doing it very successfully for, at that time, about 8 years.
Okay.
And when I say successfully, it was self-sustaining. The people they had men's houses, women's houses, veterans houses. I think they've expanded into a couple of other types of houses now. But they bought homes in middle class neighborhoods and remodeled them typically, and put two to a roommate kind of set up, 6, 8 out there. They've got as many as 10 people. We won't have that many here, but they were doing it successfully because the recidivism, return to the drug of choice, is really, really low in their model. Most people who go to recovery and go to treatment and come back, and a lot of times they don't go to a halfway house. They go back to the situation that got them oftentimes in a bad spot anyway. So I said, where's a need for that here? I've had guys for years ask me if I could put together some kind of housing. Had a guy bugging me for 6 or 7 years or longer down in Fort Smith to provide some housing down there, and I just wasn't in a place to do it. So we talked about it. I said I'd love to do this if we could.
Yeah.
It's a good financial decision, and so we started looking into it. I got some training with that group called Kate's House Foundation out in Seattle. Did a lot of study with them just to understand the ins and outs. You don't just open up a house.
Yeah.
Put a board of directors together, some people that believe in our mission, some friends of mine, and one family member, and gave us some guidance on that, and we're up and going. And so anyway, there's a need for it, a huge need for it. And
I want to talk to you a minute about this. You're talking about people who have had different circumstances and need a situation that you're providing. Men's mental health.
Yeah.
Not something that was really talked about when I was growing up or when you were growing up.
No.
But I talked recently about I've been diagnosed with bipolar disorder twice because I didn't believe before. So I thought, it's maybe something else, because you don't want to admit to something like that.
Most guys don't want to admit to anything.
No, absolutely.
Especially like there might be something wrong that you can't control.
Sure. And I feel like we've almost overcorrected in the men's sensitivity. I feel like now we've kind of gone a little bit too far with it, and you still need that strength.
Absolutely.
But I still feel like mental health is something, men, women, either gender, mental health is just still not at the forefront of a lot of conversations. Why do you think that is?
Well, there's taboo because I think a lot of the things that underlie mental unhealth, mental issues, there's some taboo about talking about some of the things that are underlying all that. And then secondly, I think that pharmaceuticals, honestly, have been the solution for everybody for years.
Sure.
And so I think some people, some men don't want that because they don't want to be on a medication.
Right.
Or they've heard horror stories of people being on medications and they lose themselves, not maybe entirely like an addict, but they lose the personality, they lose the drive,
They
or
numb
they numb you
to
out.
a point where, yeah.
And so, people have pushed back against that. I think mostly, though, Brad, it's just men isolate and they turn in unless you're doing something like this or you're in a situation where you're forced, like I was. I mean, I owned a real estate office. I was very involved in many things in community and had been for years. But the deeper parts of me, I had tried at times to talk to a counselor or two about some of my things, and they didn't know what to do with it. And this was in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Right.
Today we've come quite a bit down the road from there. Nobody wanted to talk about it. My first wife didn't want to talk about it. She didn't want me to talk about it.
Really?
Oh, no.
So it was taboo even for her?
It was taboo for her because it was embarrassing to her and the family.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so if I'm weak, so I don't know that I can get this right, and I just thought of it. I can't remember. It might have been Brene Brown. I think it was
Hold on
Brene.
a second. What are you sneaking around back there for?
Oh, you got a critter back there?
I got a critter. He was hiding out there doing his electronic time in the
Oh.
room, but now he's just lurking in the background. Don't lurk. Come in or out. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, that's all right. I think it's Brene Brown who did in one of her talks. She talked. I think it's who it was, but whether it's her or not, talked about a man who came at the end of one of her speeches and came to the front and talked to her and kind of got onto her, and said, what our wives want us to do is ride on the white stallion, and to be like the hero and sweep in and do everything, be the hero and to look the hero and to be that and to get dirty to help us, get down in the dirt but get back on that white stallion. But what happens is that as soon as we admit that we have a fault,
Sure.
we don't have a place on the white stallion anymore. In other words, we have to fall on the sword instead of like riding the stallion out for ourselves. And so anyway, that was in part my experience. I'm not blaming her. It's just I tried to talk to people about some of my issues from childhood, and nobody knew what to do with it at all.
Yeah.
At all. I couldn't hardly talk about those things. And when I did try to talk about them, a counselor didn't know what to do with it. And so I shared it with our pastor and his wife. And, their solution was, well, let's just pray about it. And we prayed again.
Mm-hmm.
And when the prayer that he prayed was over, it's like, we're good now.
Right.
See ya. See you in church Sunday.
Yeah.
And, man, I'm telling you, something in me that day was like, they don't know what to do with this.
Right.
And so I think that's pretty common. But now I will say, like what we're doing with our housing, we had a just check-in meeting. What's the best thing this week? What's your biggest challenge? What do we need to do? We need toilet paper. We need wipes. What do we need here in the house?
Right.
Kind of thing. But I think these guys have been there just a short amount of time are demonstrating what I've seen over and over again in the rooms of the misfit toys in AA and different places like that, where the broken people gather because they got nowhere else to go. They're really broken a lot of times or close to it. And that is that they feel like they have a common bond with each other.
Right.
And it's amazing how openly they share with one another, and they've known each other about 4 weeks, come from all different backgrounds. I saw it happen just the other night.
That's interesting.
Yeah. One guy, his biggest concern, he's been a friend of mine for about 17, 18 years, and I'm not going to name him, but what he shared the other night was that he was concerned that with all these guys coming in together, that it would be dysfunctional.
Keep talking. I'm gonna let that cat in that room.
Yeah, he was afraid it would be dysfunctional. And he really didn't want it to be dysfunctional because he's never really had a family, and the only family he's come from was very dysfunctional growing up. And so He's been a loner for a long time, and yet he knew that he needed to have this group of, to be a part of this
Right.
housing thing. And his greatest concern is that his kind of first family of just a bunch of ragtag guys, there would be a dysfunction. I'm not saying there won't be, but for the first couple of months there hasn't been.
Right.
So he's appreciating that.
Do you think that's because of just having the fellowship and having people of some kind of common background?
Yeah, I think what it is that by the time you get to one of our houses, you've done some work on yourself. You've had to, because we don't just take people straight off of, a drunk this weekend.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
we or a bender using straight off of out of. So they've been through and done some work, but every single one of them knows how desperate they are. I mean, that's where I was. I was very desperate to change my life.
Right.
And so.
Which you did, and I'm so impressed with that.
Well, thank you.
I haven't.
Feels like a big gift to me. I mean, I celebrate my belly button birthday on February 1st, and that's always fun. But my sobriety birthday is when I really started learning to live, live and live right and serve other people in a just a really genuine way without I'm not trying to change people. If they want to change, I'm a guide. I'm a kind of shepherd them at times. I'm kind of a shepherd kind of guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I used to be a pastor and years ago, and I don't miss a lot of that.
You still have that in you.
Oh yeah, I know.
Definitely.
Yeah, I know I do, and I embrace that today. For years, I didn't
That's a
really
good
run
thing.
from it. I appreciate that, Brad. That's
you've got a. I don't know. I've sat and talked with you a couple of different times. I think we met on Nicole's podcast.
Yeah.
We did a lunch at Gabriella's.
Yeah.
I went to an AA meeting with you.
Yeah.
So we spent a little bit of time together. But you have a very. I'm trying to think of this like a. You've got a good mentor vibe, a good fatherly, preacherly. I don't know what the word for it is, but a good masculine leader. Somebody that really and I think more than anything, you have a story. A redemption story.
Yeah.
Because it's real easy, I think, to preach to people when you've not had any life experience.
Yeah.
I've never taken drugs, so I can tell you they have nothing to offer. That's
Right.
the whole joke,
Yeah.
And for somebody like you, after hearing your story, it's so inspiring because it's like, man, and I haven't hit a rock bottom like that, and I'm glad I haven't.
Right.
But
it's costly.
It is. It is.
Very,
I don't want to forfeit
it's
what I have.
costly.
But at the same time, I still have just this tremendous respect for what you've done, because a lot of people, when you hit rock bottom, you either keep doing the things that put you there,
right,
or you give up. But to start over and accomplish what you've accomplished, and you've got, you seem like a very genuinely happy dude.
I am.
A very at peace individual.
Yeah.
And maybe that's not true. I don't know. Is that?
No, the peace is the peace. Inside of me is the thing that it's kind of my temperature gauge today.
Okay.
Yeah. My serenity, my peace, my
Yeah.
being really comfortable within myself, that comfortable in my own skin. I was not comfortable in my own skin for the first 39 years of looking back, it probably did start when I was 6 and from what I recall
What year were you born?
1962.
Okay.
So
you're about my dad's age, roughly
Yeah.
the same generation.
Yeah. So I'm 62 years old today.
Yeah.
But I was clearly molested as a 6-year-old and groomed for the next 3 years of my life by someone outside my family and a young adult who introduced me to all kinds of stuff that a 6 to 9-year-old boy
shouldn't.
Well, some of it I thought was really cool back then.
Yeah.
But it was rewiring how I thought and how I perceived how to be and how to live parts of my life. But what came with that, the abuse, some of the sexual thing, a lot of the sexual things, what I didn't realize it was doing, is creating a shame inside of me that became a working mechanism within me and became a part of me. Had no idea what it was. Had things I tried to tell people about later in my life. But some of the wiring that took place during that time created in me a behavioral pattern that became harmful to others, as well as myself. And so that, of course, would cause shame, and how to escape that, and couldn't escape it. And one of the things about alcohol, I know I'm powerless over that, but there are certain other things that I know that I am really powerless over. Right. And don't want to get anywhere close to that. And so one of the reasons that I stay away from me of losing any kind of control at all of, like, through alcohol or any mind-altering substances, I just don't want to do harm to anybody else.
Sure.
That doesn't make me a good shepherd. That doesn't make me for me, that makes me, I've seen the damage for other people and just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that was years and years ago, but I didn't even remember it till I was 31 years old.
Really?
Yeah, didn't remember. I was on a golf course in Fort Smith.
So how does that work?
I don't know how it works,
just
man.
Flood back?
No,
So
someone. I'm not going to say. I was with someone.
But you repressed these memories.
Yeah, I was totally did not remember it till I was 31 years old. And I can tell you exactly where I was and remembered it. Probably a good topic because this has happened to other people.
Experience.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Well, I can tell you what it felt like. I had just striped my drive down the 11th fairway of number 11 at Ben Guerin Golf Course in Fort Smith. And the person that I was with, we pulled up to my golf ball. I was sitting there in the fairway. And the person I was with asked me if I remembered this event that happened when I was 6. Because he was there. And had his own experience with that.
Okay.
And when he asked that question, Brad, it was like a movie screen dropped in front of me, and I can remember the exact place, the feeling. It was a tent in the backyard that we were lured into, and I could see it. I can see it right now, but I hadn't seen it like in my mind since I over 25 years, and it was like a movie. I mean, it was like a movie, and I could everything about it was like I was back there. And
this was triggered by his question?
By his question. Yeah. And he said, "What would you do if you saw that guy today?" And I was like, "I don't know." And he said, "I know what I would do. I'd kill him."
Yeah.
And I didn't have that response. So the movie screen went back up. I don't remember playing any more golf, but I do remember getting in my car after that and headed straight across the street and bought a 6-pack and a pint of vodka. And now I hadn't been drinking a whole lot before that, but that was that day is when it began. Really began. Yeah.
Now
my
at this
drinking.
point you were
31.
31. Well, oh my goodness.
Who is this?
Late again. It's our late producer.
Our
Caitlin
producer.
Porter. Have you met Caitlin?
Have
you met Hal?
No, I haven't.
This is Caitlin.
Hi, Caitlin.
She was just all over Durham Fest too.
I bet you're exhausted.
Stream going. She was filming all day.
Are you tired, Caitlin?
I'm tired, but I'm like really sick right now.
Oh no.
Like as in I'm about to I'm just having heat stroke stuff or whatever.
Go get some water.
I have some in the
Hydrate.
Oh, I did.
Well, you got what kind of earrings you got? Is that what I think it is?
Have you?
I have your wife some new ones too.
Okay, I have not seen these. These are the Durham logo on earrings.
Who made?
Awesome.
Did you make those?
She had some "Carry Me Home" album cover
cool.
earrings on at the show.
I'll show you those.
It's really cool. She's sporting one of the new Durham shirts.
Right there.
Oh, look at that! How cool!
I
So, are your sicknesses that from heat?
Well, so I get whenever. So from Tower of Terror, I went on the Tower of Terror, and I figured out I get sick whenever I go into like zero gravity. And on the way here, we almost hit I almost hit a car, and the car almost hit another car because we all had to stop 3 times for deer. All the deer were in one was just sitting on the side of the road, just there. And then it was a mom and another baby deer, and they were just wandering out in Weddington Lake area. And so from stopping to do that and then going in like the little curves and stuff and going up and down, it just made me sick.
Well, don't puke all over the place like Stephen Lord.
No.
Did you have somebody get sick this weekend?
No. You know, here's why one of the reasons I was nervous about Durham Fest 1 was 12 years ago where these people were in our lives, right?
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily want that, but these people were very supportive. They came to all our shows. We were great friends, and, you know, some people weren't in a great space.
Right.
You know, 12 years ago, neither was I. But everybody that came out, you know, they have children now. It was a family event. Because I said I'm not going to play a show if my kids can't go to it,
Right.
and I'm not going to, do a show where there's not alcohol. And judge me how you will.
I
But our
don't
crowd's
judge
not
it.
going to show up.
I don't judge it.
if they
I'm
can't
like
have
all
any
for
food.
it. I'm all for it. I just can't do it. You know.
I get it. But like I wouldn't be able to do a show without it. I like a little lubricant, and our fans do as well. So
That's
it's
all
like
good.
If we want to do that, then let's just do it ourselves and
Yeah.
have a festival, invite family and friends, and all that stuff. But man, there's just all kinds of activity going on in here now. Hal was sharing his soul.
Oh, I'm used
Bearing
to
his
it.
soul.
I'm good with all of it.
What's going on in the refrigerator over there, big guy?
Sour cream.
Sour cream? Okay, you know how distracting that is?
Sour cream.
Get it and get
What are you
out.
making? Tacos?
Yes, we made so I'm a huge taco fan.
Me too, man.
And so for Father's Day, I was like, let's throw down on some tacos. Well, when I was growing up, my mom made them with sausage,
Oh, okay.
like pork sausage.
Yeah.
And to this day, that's my favorite kind of tacos. Anyway, I introduced the kids to it. They love it. My wife hates it. So
Straight up pork sausage, or you mix it with hamburger?
no, I just straight up cook the sausage like breakfast sausage. You just,
Really?
I grind it up, I brown it, get a little
Uh-huh.
crispy, and you put it on tacos, man. And it's
You mix in some
amazing.
taco seasoning or anything?
No, I just
Straight up?
cook it straight up.
Wow.
Man. Just brown it a little bit.
Interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, my
It's not
kids love it.
chorizo.
No, no, sir. My wife hates it. So yesterday I got 2 pounds of sausage and 2 pounds of ground beef, and the sausage was completely eliminated, and there were still 2 pounds of ground beef left. I was like, okay, that's the last time I'm even messing
Right.
with the ground beef. But anyway, I don't know if you can get back in that emotional moment you were in, but you were talking about, so it was like a movie screen.
Yeah, well, yeah. And so I don't remember finishing the round of golf, but I do remember going across the street
You got some liquor.
Yeah, and I hadn't been drinking that. I really hadn't drank that much.
And how long ago
before
was
that.
this again?
Well, it's 20. Well, at that time, that would have been 1991, so it would have been 33 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I drank for 10 years. I ran a real estate
Okay.
business and drank for 10
So
years.
this is what kicked it off, kind of.
Yeah, I was a Baptist preacher, and I had started smoking weed when I was, like 7th grade, started drinking, running around doing all crazy
Yeah.
stuff. I had major knee surgery when I was 15. Took me out of my sophomore year of high school. I missed my first semester because of in cast from my, I'll say it nice, from my groin to my toes.
Yeah.
And missed the whole semester of school, and but that didn't stop my my partying until my senior year, and I had what I would call a really significant spiritual experience my senior year at a church, and I'm glad that I did, because that's that shepherd thing. That's when I really kind of realized that I'm not doing right by me. I'm not doing right by God. I'm not doing right by my family. And I have a gift with people, and I was not using it well. And so that senior year, that's when I was like, I'm going to be a minister, and so I went to the most obvious place to go when you want to go to a really spiritual place. I went to the University of Arkansas, Razorbacks, but did a lot of ministry stuff in college, and then went to seminary, and then came back to Farmington to pastor a church. And so because of that, I wasn't drinking, I wasn't doping, I was all good. I was probably an asshole a lot of the time. Yeah. Really, I was probably really an asshole and egotistical. Where we grew, the church grew, and I didn't listen to people. I had no humility. I was a cocky young preacher.
Well, I'm probably still a cocky asshole, people would argue, but like I do remember being that age and just thinking I am so much better than everyone.
I was
else.
prettier than everybody.
Smarter, better,
and,
faster.
And I know,
yeah.
God, I hear God better than you.
You hadn't been humbled.
I had not. No, I hadn't been humbled at all.
But it takes humility if you have a hubris. I think you have to have some falls or some shortfalls.
Oh yeah,
to learn that.
Yeah, I don't know how. I don't think you get there. I don't think you really get to your true self. And you may not like me saying this.
No.
But I don't think anybody gets to their true self, gets the opportunity to dig and fight for their true self unless they've like hit a real bottom.
Yeah.
Like a real bottom. I think it's very, very, very rare. I don't know of anybody. Some of the greatest, what you call saints or greatest people in the world. I think that they have had it, whether we know it or not. They've had those things.
Can a bottom be relative to different people, though?
Sure. Yeah, it doesn't have to look the same.
I've had points where I wanted to end it all.
It's called the dark night of the soul, whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe it takes less for some people to realize, maybe one person can get in a minor car accident and say, oh my gosh.
That's as far down as this elevator needs to go.
That's as far as I want to go.
I can see it deeper bottom. I'm getting off
sure.
right here. Let's start
some
working
people,
it back.
It takes them to hit really, really the bottom.
And mine hit so fast. I mean, honestly, I say it hit fast. I didn't have any like warning signs, like DUIs. I didn't have any DUIs. I didn't have any run-ins
of drinking,
and it progressively worse and worse.
And now you're not talking about social drinking. You're talking about
I didn't like social drinking. I didn't like hanging out drinking with other people.
No, were you drinking heavy?
Well, I had
stuff?
vodka under my seat all everywhere I went.
Time. Yeah,
mixing it with cranberry juice and whatever I could find. Yeah. Take stupid stuff
and not having to deal with any consequences of it.
None.
So you're
Zero.
in your 20s.
Zero. No, I'm in my 30s at this point.
Early 30s.
Yeah, early to mid. Well, I was 39 when I got sober. When I got arrested and sober.
Okay.
Yeah. So, 9 years, no consequences, no arrest, no pullover, no. The worst it ever was that my wife found a bottle of vodka in the back of my trunk when she was getting something out on a trip, and she's like, "Where'd this come from?" I'm like, "I don't know." That was the worst it ever got.
Yeah.
I just lied,
Yeah.
As far as worse for me, consequences. There were fights. There was a miserable marriage. There was not being able. Hating myself at times, really hating myself. Guilt, shame. The difference between guilt and shame, in one way is guilt, you can kind of see it, hold it. Shame is like trying to nail Jell-O to the wall. You just, it's there and you don't know what, you can't. It's a dark Jell-O. And that has to be rooted out, I think, through some work that most people never get to.
Well, you also need people to hold you accountable. Like I know my wife told me early on, it's like, it's whiskey or me.
Mm.
That's it.
How'd that go?
I'm not gonna say I haven't ever had any. A little bit here and there, but like, it's not worth it.
So she laid down the ultimatum.
It's not worth it.
Yeah.
It was not a no alcohol deal. She says, when you drink beer, you're
fine. Yeah.
But when you drink whiskey, you're a monster.
Right.
And I had to acknowledge that that's not fair to her.
Right.
So
good trade-off.
I'll stop doing this. But somebody stood up and said, "Hey, this is a problem for what we're trying to accomplish."
Right.
And I think if you're not held accountable by anyone, and growing up as a teenager, your parents don't really.
No, I lied to them a bunch.
I didn't count. My parents couldn't hold me accountable because I knew more than they did. Right. I was way smarter and had way more experience, even though I'm half their age. But that's the hubris of the youth, isn't it?
Yeah. I think parents want to believe you, want to believe that you're okay, your kids are okay, and but I was away from them. I mean, by that time I was 39 years old and had children of my own, and I had lived away from them for a long time, and so I mean it was. So for me though, my drinking brought up stuff from childhood. So so I started picking up where I left off as a kid, and that you can't do that. I mean, it does harm, and it's bad, and it's really bad. And
did you know you had a problem during that span,
dude? You
said you were lying about it.
I lied. I mean, I lied. When you say I knew I had a problem, I knew I'd had a problem since I was a kid. I just nobody talked to about it, couldn't talk about it.
Right.
for me, weed and drinking and stuff like that, I guess maybe kind of helped, or just I just thought it was teenage stuff. But
Right.
as I got older, I knew. I mean, I was very I would say spiritual, religious, whatever. I mean, I'd go to the mountain. I literally would go out to the mountain in Mountainburg and camp out and spend 10 days out there as an older teenager, young adult, begging God to get this stuff out of me. This ugly stuff, this stuff that's shame. I'd make my lists, my confessional list and confess to God and whatever. I mean, it was serious. Like I was desperate to be rid of things that I had no idea how to get rid of.
Right.
And, but what I couldn't ever do was tell anybody about it. I was all alone in the deepest, darkest part. And
that's a hopeless feeling.
That hopeless and scared, and you don't know. You never seen anybody. You never knew anybody that had been that.
Sure, you don't have that.
You don't have any
frame of
model
reference.
for it. You don't have no. And so, and that happens to a lot of people. I think a lot of people, it gets so bad that they have to tell because they're in trouble for what they've done. The consequences of this inability to tell, the consequences of the things that have added up, all these different things, come to the place where the way I see it now is that God had a plan for me, which I now fully embrace, but it was a complete loss for a very long period of time. But I immediately recognized that once I was able to tell the truth, the whole truth to somebody, unfortunately it was a state trooper. It really was. The first time I unloaded everything about my truth was on May the 18th, 2001 at the state trooper's office.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was 2 hours of note taking after my Mirandas.
Right.
I didn't know any better. I had no experience with law. I had no record. I had no nothing. Nothing. Right. And so when they had me sign that piece of paper, I had already started telling the truth the day before. And it felt like a relief and freedom. So all I knew to do when I went in the police station was to unload it. I didn't have an attorney at the time. I had no experience with it. But at the end of the 2 hour conversation, talking to those two people at the state trooper's office, they arrested me and charged me with felony and said, we're going to take you to Washington County and you're going to be charged and you can talk to them about bonding out and so forth. So that started, it took a month later, I checked myself into a treatment center on Father's Day, June 17th, 2001, down in Texas. By that time, I'd had an attorney, and he told me to shut the F up, stop telling everybody your story, you've unloaded it now, you're going to put yourself in the grave.
Yeah.
Which wasn't the thing to do.
Was it a cathartic thing to get it
out?
out?
Oh, very, very.
So you're in a very bad situation.
Yeah.
At the same time, are you just
It was the most healthy thing I'd ever done in my life.
I was wondering about
Absolutely.
that.
Yes. And, I caught shit and hell for it because I had certain people who didn't, once again, people who were embarrassed by it.
Sure.
And didn't want people to know. And, and I could see that, but I wasn't telling everybody. But I was telling the police.
Right.
And telling a few close friends. And my attorney just said, please be quiet till you get into treatment. Let me handle this. And I was guilty. I knew I was guilty. I'd never been in trouble with the law. When they arraign you and you do all this stuff, you go before the bench, and he's like, you have to plead not guilty. And I said, but I'm guilty. I was guilty. 100%.
Why would they tell you to plead not guilty?
Because that you're waiving your rights for a fair trial, and the judges don't even want you to plead guilty when you go the first time to the courts.
Isn't that a little messed up?
It's kind of messed up, but it's the system, So you plead not guilty, and then your attorney works, talks.
Is our system broken?
Yeah, it's very broken. There's great people. There's really, really good people. I'm very involved with it now. Because of my recovery and the things we're doing, I go to a lot of the county meetings and different things, and it's a very broken system, our jail system. There's lots of broken, but there's some really good people. Some people don't see the value in restorative justice, which is what, or redemptive justice. It's all retributive but
Right.
you're going to pay, and you'll never be okay. I mean,
Right.
I had a probation officer that, their opinion of me was that I would, that I would never not be the most evil person in the world, and so, I mean, they made it public. That's what they believed at a public meeting about me specifically.
What gave them that idea?
I don't know. I don't know why me, honestly. But I mean, it was a real thing. I had to call the head of the department and say, "You need to stop this,"
Really?
because it did harm to one of my family members who was in the meeting. I have a family member that was in the public school system, and they went to a training on self-defense, and they had a little blurb in the beginning of the self-defense class about offenders, sex offenders, and they said, "Here's what you think they look like," and then at the very end they said, "Let me show you the scariest one, the most evil one," and they literally put my picture up there.
Wow.
And this family member was there,
Yeah.
and I think the reason that her point was that the criminals don't always look like criminals.
Yeah.
And I didn't look like
for
one.
sure. Yeah.
I didn't look like one. And so I think that was her point. I think also she didn't like the fact that I was able to see my kids, and the system didn't beat up on me. In part because I didn't go to. I paid for my own treatment center. That was a part of the deal why I got probation and not prison, because I went and said I need help.
Right. And you paid for
And
yourself.
I paid for myself to go to treatment for 3 months. And
Is that when you got sober? Was in that treatment?
my last drink was just before I left to go to that treatment center.
Okay.
Yeah, but I wasn't drinking heavy. I was scared shitless. I was
Well, what did
facing
that
30
treatment
years in
center
prison.
do for you? Do you feel like you got a benefit from going?
Oh, yeah.
Or was it really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
How so?
Well, first of all, I thought I was going because I had this sex problem and had since I was a kid. And
Is that just an obsession or an addiction?
it was an addiction, obsession, and I was powerless over certain behaviors that did harm to some others.
Right.
Yeah. And
a compulsion, just like
compulsion
drinking or
compulsion,
anything else.
Yeah. And didn't matter how many. Trying to say this. One victim's weight is 1,000 too many. Just put it that way.
Yeah.
So, I thought I was going there for that. I had no idea that that alcohol was such a big part of my life. I was drinking a lot, but I literally went to the treatment center having no clue that I was an alcoholic. Zero.
So you didn't have a clue as of when you went into the treatment center?
I went to that treatment center because I knew that I had a problem that I was powerless over in the sex part.
Hold on a minute. So you didn't even think you had a drinking problem?
Did not.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So you're focusing on one thing and ignoring an entirely different, thing.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, I had been desperate for help with this sex thing since I was a kid. And
do you think it was caused by the events of what happened to you as a child?
Oh yeah. You don't get groomed to do the things that I got groomed to do when you're 6 to 9 years old, and show up.
But I think that could also have the opposite effect of making somebody not want
just the
anything.
opposite. Yeah, it does. There's only two paths.
Yeah,
There's
right.
no neutral path.
Yes.
When you
In
have
an event like that,
been in the situation that I was in,
you either block it out or
you go down
push it
one of
away.
two paths. You go down one of two paths.
Yeah.
You either become a victim for the rest of your life, or
Mhm.
you begin to become the victimizer.
Wow.
Always.
You know,
Always.
I can't think of an exception. I'm thinking about all the people.
Always.
That I know
Men,
that-
women.
Yeah.
And
either side
it's
of
1 in
it.
4. There used to be 1 in 4 women and 1 in 6 men. The new numbers is 1 in 4 men as well.
So if sexual trauma happens to you at a young age, you either become the victim for the rest of your life,
Well, you until you do the work on it.
or
Yeah.
or you become the victimizer.
Or both.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
fucking powerful.
Yeah. Just like the alcoholic. I mean, you'll take a kid that grows up in an alcoholic home, abusive alcoholic home.
They'll
either say, "I'll never touch
it,"
it," and try to control everything and everyone, or they will swear it off because they don't want to be that, and they become that.
Yeah.
It happens thousands, and just over and over and over again.
It's interesting, I don't know if you've seen any of my podcasts, but I've got a buddy named Drew Jones who's been on a couple times, and he grew up with his family, a lot of alcohol and whatnot, and he doesn't touch it to this day.
That's how my mom was. My mom wouldn't let it in the house because her dad was just an abusive alcoholic.
It's interesting how much of life and government and everything is such a pendulum.
Yeah.
It's like things happen and there's one of two paths, and they're both fairly extreme.
Yeah, they are. So let me jump off of this.
You roll. It's your show, brother.
So all of this stuff, and I'm not trying to avoid it. I just want to say that it has been the love of people and God through people, and the help of other people who've been down the path ahead of me that helped me. And it's a bunch. Now,
that helped you.
Oh yeah, not the ones I expected it to be.
Really?
Oh no. Most of it, very, very.
Isn't that funny?
I don't think I have a single person. I want to be careful on this. Now, there was one guy that is a good friend that gave me a job and helped me and has been supportive. But other than that, just my family's been very supportive and loving and encouraging, and a big part of my life and recovery. That being my siblings and my mom, my dad. But no, the church.
You're getting attacked by flies.
The church.
Flies are terrible in here, Hal.
It's all right.
I apologize.
But like the church, and there's been supportive people on the outside. And then, like Nicole, for example. Years later, she's embraced who I am today, despite all the stuff of the mess that I made.
Right.
But
do you know that her and Brittany Elsa put up 2 days doing the Durham shirts? They spent 2 full days.
I believe it.
It was the most humbling. It was just. I guess when she was talking about doing T-shirts, I thought they had like a machine that they just run them through. I thought it was going to be
not
this
yet
easy thing. Well, I had no idea the work they were going to do. I never would have agreed to that if I knew they were going to spend 2 full days doing that. I just said, let's just do 10 of them or something. And then I went over there to see what they were actually doing, and they're.
Well, what do you think that is? Why would she do that?
I don't know.
This is the love. That's the word I was going to say. Man, it goes love. It's what real love looks like.
It was one of the most powerful, and I didn't even know Brittany, and I only met her briefly when I went over there. And this isn't somebody I even know, and she's doing it for Nicole, and Nicole's doing it for me, and it was just. I've never really seen that kind of just sacrifice from somebody that didn't have to do it.
Right.
It was just, anyway, it really deepened my appreciation of it. And I've always been very vocal about what Nicole's done for me.
Yeah.
She got me out of my scared little bitch shell, if my life's over and that here I am having a podcast with you on your, was it 23rd anniversary?
23rd year, yeah, 23.
Which is a
23
powerful thing.
It is. It's like I didn't really
today.
realize it when I set that up. On the 17th, I didn't think about it.
Even
though I do, it's. I honor it. I recognize it. I'll go to several AA birthday meetings this month and pick up my 23-year chip. And,
yeah.
There's some groups that I don't go to anymore just because I'm more involved in Farmington groups, but. But man, there are people in that group that have saved my life. And I got calls today from those people. I got probably 10 calls on my phone. Dude. Just a couple of them sing "Happy Birthday" to me. They don't sing very good, but they always do it. It's their tradition, and they do it for a lot of people. But, so
let me tell you something real quick.
Yeah.
So, my awakening moment for trying to change myself was when my dad's dad, my grandfather, passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, you were talking about that movie reel that played.
Yeah.
When something happened to you. When he died, some veil was lifted that just had this ticking clock on it with these faces of all the people I cared about that I hadn't seen. And there was just this wave of regret of not spending enough time with my grandfather, but at the same time realizing that I do have time left. And I met Nicole not too long after that.
Right.
I think I was probably still in my just confusion phase. You know, he was the last living grandparent I had. He was my connection to, I'll just use the term, the greatest love of my life was my grandmother, his wife. She was, all the stuff you see on these walls are the things she turned me on to.
Wow.
She was a very masculine woman in a lot of ways. She was a nerd. She was a herpetologist. She was a reptile doctor. All right. So, I mean, I remember at one point, for her doctorate dissertation, she was doing a bit, I believe, on the habits of like hognose snakes and breeding patterns and stuff. So she was putting Star Shopper ads out, like buying hognose snakes, like bring them to me. She'd pay so many cents a piece for them.
Oh, really?
And she had all these tanks in her house of all these hognose snakes.
And that was around here.
Yeah, it was in Prairie Grove back in the 80s. That hognose snake was hers. But anyway, the hognose snake is very rare and almost extinct around here, and I'm pretty sure it's because she fucked with all their breeding habits and whatnot. So I don't know where she left.
She doctored them up too much.
I don't know what happened, but they've been gone ever since. But no, she was a wild lady. She had dead animals in the freezer, and and she'd study roadkill. She was just a curious woman. She turned me on to Godzilla and Star Trek and all the science fiction stuff that was just my light in my life, and I related to that. She was that one connection that I feel like really got me. And so when she died in 2014, when we moved on this property. It was the same year. It was like 2 days before we moved into this building that we're talking in now. But then when Grandpa passed, her husband, in 2022, he was my link to her.
Yeah,
we could talk about her.
Yeah,
and share these memories. And when he died, it was just this void.
Yeah.
And like, I have no link now to this source of, whatever it was that and I'm not trying to say that, you don't get influence and love from other people, but there was a special kind of connection,
right.
A once in a lifetime kind of connection. But that for me, when he died, was, and anyway, I'm rambling now, but he died on June 15th. 2022, and we had Durham Fest on June 15th.
You sure
I
did. You didn't think about the connection
until afterward. I was like, that date, I just can't.
Something about that date.
It's just a weird thing. And then I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I had most of his grandkids were at the show, and his sons, all three of his sons were at the show. Most of the living Durhams were at the show, and I don't think anybody put it together.
Wow.
Nobody talked about it.
Well, and that was I know you've had a lot of changes since then. For yourself,
man, I came out of a death cocoon.
Yeah,
I had built a tomb around myself in this, but you didn't see it before. Like, it was just I'd given up on the dream. I was putting all of. I felt like as long as I'm being a good dad, then I think I put myself so far in the back seat. It's like, but I still felt like I could still offer things. But, I don't know. I was in a weird space.
Well, you're doing the music, but you're doing more than that.
Well, I stopped doing the music because my kids, I had kids.
Yeah.
And it was like, do I want to give up 2 nights a week away from my kids to play music? No, I don't. And so, but now, well, they were actually the ones who made me do the first Durham Fest. Because every year, they're, Dad, when are you going to play a show? And I'd say, one of these days we'll have a Durham Fest out here. And they said, you've been saying that for years. Do it this year or you won't do it. And so as kind of a screw you to my kids, I said, okay, I'll ask the other guys.
Yeah. And if they'll do it, then
we'll do it. Then we'll do it.
You knew sure they weren't going to do it.
I knew damn well nobody was going to do it. And within 5 minutes, all three of them were like, yes, yes, yes.
Wow.
It's like, oh, shit, we're doing this
And
now.
then what happened on the podcast? Because this is significant.
How to get started?
Well, not how I got started, but same kind of thing. You've got something to offer. It's more than just music.
Well, the podcast, to me, I don't think I'm offering anything.
Oh, really?
I think, no. I think maybe what I'm offering is to let people know that regular people are interesting.
Yeah.
Like just the people that you pass in the street. Like I use Joe Rogan as an example of. I think he's the best. I think he's the best podcaster because he's not the star of his own show.
Right.
He has a guest on, but he's relatable and he's curious, and I don't feel like he's tied to any superposition. He's
Right.
willing to say, "I'll take the best argument." You know, I really love that curiousness about him because he's not that guy that's going to get pissed off if you challenge his belief
Right.
and just say you're wrong. But at the same time, his guests are all elites. They're
Yeah.
the best scientist in the world, or the best actor, or best comedian, right? And so, while I learn a lot,
And
from
they're
that,
interesting.
and they are interesting.
Yeah, they're interesting.
But I had one of our mechanics on recently. I didn't know really that well. He had worked on my wife's car a couple times, and every time I'd interact and acted with him, he just fascinated me. Like he had all these stories, and he was just a character. And I had him on the pod. He's very shy, was very uncomfortable with the whole thing, but he did it, and we had a great podcast.
That's cool.
And it's just, I think for me, like I couldn't do what Nicole does and just talk.
Right. Yeah.
I have to have a
You're
conversation.
conversational. Yeah.
I'm
That's how
yeah.
That's how I'd want to be too.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I could bring some points. You know,
Yeah.
like here's contributing, but I'd much rather, if I was going to do it, have a podcast. And I will say, if I do one, I know likely it'll be built around this trauma thing because I'm finishing up my book.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about your book.
Yeah,
how's that going?
it's going really good actually. I've got it all done except for what I would call the final edit, and I think I'm just going to do it on Amazon, self-published through Amazon. But it's 56 years in the making, because it is the topic. The subtopic is what we've talked about, which is male survivors of sexual abuse and trauma.
Right.
And it's just daily reader reflections, short, 150 word, 200 word entries on a daily
And these
read.
are things you're coming up with.
Yeah, me and other people, a few other
Okay.
people. Yeah, I'm resourcing other people. I'm not capable of doing all that on my own by myself, but I do a lot of reading.
So
and
do you come up with a kind of a topic to?
a daily topic, and then
Okay.
I talk about that, and it's not always about the abuse. It's probably, I would say 30%, 40% specifically, probably 30% addresses specifically having been having some kind of childhood male, as a
Right.
boy, abuse.
When does the book come out?
Well, as soon as I get it done. I mean, it's done. I mean, I don't have a target date now. I mean, I've moved the target date so many times.
Right.
But I mean,
But
like
that's the
I've got
nice thing
three.
about-
I've got three different people editing. My wife's editing the kind of the final edit,
Right.
the way she does it, and she's really smart at stuff like that, and she's willing to help. It's me and a guy named James Emery, and then some collections from other people, because trauma takes many different forms. Abandonment as a child, it's not just sexual abuse, but it needed to be addressed. Sexual abuse for males needed to be addressed. It was my experience as a boy.
And you certainly don't hear about that.
No, you don't. Matter of
At
fact,
all.
in 2015, I think probably. So I was 14 years sober, still under the guidance of the state of Arkansas with my criminal offense, and been in recovery programs and helped a lot of men, that had been through some of the stuff that I'd been through. And I came across a little book, a little daily reader, like, people are familiar with everything from a daily reflection, all kind of stuff, just a little daily short read thing. But this one was written for women. It's called Daybreak, Daily Meditations for Women Survivors of Sexual Abuse. And I thought, man, what a cool little book. Never seen one. So I got a copy of it and started reading it, and I thought, man, I'm kind of relating to this. It's for women, but I'm relating to it.
Well, sure.
Sure, because
The
the
human
abuse is
experience.
abuse. Yeah, the human experience.
Yeah, right.
And so I started journaling a little bit and writing about it, which is a practice I try to do. And then I thought, well, I'll just get the men's version of it. So I started looking online, and there was no
There
men's
wasn't
version.
one. Yeah.
And then I was like, well, that sucks. Why isn't there
Yeah.
no men's version? Once
Yeah.
again, it's like, just it's taboo. We don't talk about
Absolutely.
it. And so then I was like, well, what other books for men on this topic, not just a daily reader? And man, I'm telling you, there are none.
Yeah.
I mean, when I say none,
Soon to
I'm
be.
talking like maybe a half a dozen
Yeah.
identified. Now, since then, I've had a friend in Indiana that's told his story in book form. It's his whole story about this kind of stuff when he was in junior high. There's a guy in England that's helping people write their own stories, men and women, but mostly it's women. Maybe a couple of men have from what I've seen,
Yeah.
but he's actually put out some work on that and helping people. But so I started working on it, and I thought, I'm writing my own version of this. I'm writing a book. Well, then I started talking about doing the book, and then I had people say, you need to do this. You just need to write this book. And so I've been doing it, but it's a hard write. I mean, it's hard to write this. Like,
In what way?
You just maybe because
The
I've
right
never
words
written a
don't
book.
come
It's
to you,
the right
or-
words, or you feel like you're saying the same thing over and over
Mm-hmm.
again, or emotionally when you kind of give yourself to writing it, you just hit a wall. You just like it's kind of
Yeah.
exhausting.
But you know what makes me trust you about this is that if you said it was easy, then that would probably mean you weren't trying that hard.
Well,
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I could, as a songwriter, if I'm
Yeah.
writing lyrics, I could just write the first thing that came to my head and say,
Yeah.
"Oh, that was easy," but it wouldn't be any good
right,
Right?
because you didn't,
because you didn't put any
come
effort
in
into
pain.
it. So
Yes.
the fact that you say it's hard
Yeah.
means that you're at least trying to make this the best product that it can be and meaningful
Well, and I think the other
or
thing,
relatable.
the other thing too is I've tried to protect. I've got a daughter that's a senior in high school, just graduated.
Just graduated, right?
Yeah, and so she's had to deal with. Well, all my kids have had to deal with my stuff. It's not an easy
Sure.
thing to carry. When I met Lisa, I said, when we were falling in love, and I said, it's not easy to be married to me. It's really not. It's not. I can be a great guy, but it's just my experience is that with what I've done, the consequences of my stuff impacts everybody in my
Yeah.
family, and it's less today.
Sure.
We've overcome that a lot. I have. So part of my delay was that I just really didn't want to do harm by putting this out in my name, but I felt like it wouldn't have the value that it needed to have if it didn't have my name on it.
Yeah.
And so I've added an additional writer, which kind of separates some of the stories and some of the entries, so that
a little bit of diverse.
it gives a diversity, but it also says, well, is this Hal's story or this other guy's story? And in the beginning, I talk about how, these are sourced from several people, because I've worked with a lot of guys over the years, and I've heard a lot of guys' stories, and I don't tell their names and I don't tell their exact story because it's only 150 to 250 words, so you can't. It's just a topic for the day, but I take some of that stuff and.
There's just
and-
not enough room to put their home address in there.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So anyway, I'm thinking that it will be out. I don't know.
You know what?
I would have thought it had been out by now, honestly. So I don't know.
You know what though?
It'll be out there.
We could promo it on the podcast.
We
You'll have
can
to come back.
I'll come back and
Read a
I'll
couple
read
passages
some. I'll read
from
some
it.
stuff from it. It's all
Throw it.
written. It's all written. It just hasn't been edited out, and I may make a few tweaks on it, but I've had to let go of the perfection, of it being really impactful and delivering the best message.
But you're working on it.
I'm working
like
on
you're
it. Yeah.
trying. I
Yeah.
love that, dude.
Yeah.
I want to say we started this. I think our first pod came out May 6th.
Our first pod came.
It was May 6th. Anyway, we hit 1,000 views yesterday.
That is
total
awesome.
views with over 150 watch hours. I thought it would take 6 months to a year to hit that. So
Who's
somebody's
watching it?
us. Jason Stillwell's friends, apparently. I don't know. He got 250 views on his podcast, so I don't know.
Is it men, women, a bunch? You
I
just
can't. I don't
you
have
any
enough
metrics
demo.
on that?
I don't have enough data on the analytics to tell me demo yet. I can just see location. Like it's mostly Arkansas, few Texas views, some Canadian views, which is weird, but it's just
That's good.
it's wild. So maybe by the time the book comes out, we can get you.
I'll be glad to come
hundreds
back.
of views,
I'll be
Hal.
glad to come back if you want me to.
I definitely.
I
I
can't.
want to get you into a power pod.
What's a power pod?
So, on a hair, my buddy Drew Jones and I were doing a podcast, and he was talking about kind of how the Marvel universe has crossovers, right?
Yeah. Uh huh.
And I was stewing on that. I think that was a Thursday, and then I think my wife and kids were going out of town, And yeah, me and Max stayed home. My oldest one. And I was like, man, we ought to do a podcast where we just invite all the first guests over and have them on at the same time. Nobody knows anybody,
Right.
and just
Except I would know Nicole.
just go. Well, yeah, you'd know Nicole if she was on. But anyway, so all these people show up. Not everybody made it. We had some people out of town, but most of the first guests showed up in the same room.
And you've done a power pod.
Yeah, it's out. It's
Okay.
out. It's on YouTube. You can watch it today.
Does it say that?
What?
What's it called?
It's called the Power Pod.
Okay, the power pod. Okay.
Yeah. I market my podcast like it's WWE, man.
That
I'm going all
That's good.
hype, all title. I love that shit.
That's good.
Anyway, so it was really awkward for the first 45 minutes because nobody knows anybody.
Right.
And of course, I'm just, I'm having a good time. I'm keeping it rolling. I'm asking questions, talking to these people. And then, the beer starts flowing and
Sure.
people start get comfortable. And then it was the most fun we'd had. And without I don't know, whatever we're doing here, I wouldn't have had that experience.
Right.
It's like the band experience plus this both coming.
But that's
back
what
into
I'm
my
saying
life.
about you have
It's
something
a
to offer.
Purpose.
That's what
I
I'm
don't
saying.
know. I'm offering anything. I'm offering.
I don't know. You never
a good
know, man.
conversation, maybe.
You never know. Because I'm telling you that what you're
people
doing.
are watching it. I don't know what they're getting out of it. But they need to like. Where's that camera?
What if
And subscribe and comment. Damn it! I will read the comments on the next podcast if you will comment on them. I'll read them on the show and I'll respond to them. So engage amongst yourselves.
Well, with social media the way it is, people just put themselves out. This is a face talking face. Everybody's prettying themselves up. They're telling like a sliver of the story.
Yeah.
You get the best part of the story,
Well,
unless your deal is the best. Unless it's the sloppy part of the story, and that's what gets you views.
Right.
But when you do a podcast and you get down into the conversation,
Yeah.
and conversation really
Is a lost art.
It is a lost.
It's a lost
It's
art.
a lost part of society.
It's all quick.
It is
just bullshit. Small talk.
Yes.
And that's what I miss about my mother's father, my maternal grandfather, was such a bullshitter. And he was the most charming man I'd ever met in my life. And I've told this story on my pod before, I think. But, when I was 6 or 7, he killed this rattlesnake in the attic. And then, 2 years later, there's this 4-foot rattlesnake that got in the bedroom, right? And then 10 years later,
10 foot.
he's wrapped up by an anaconda, and I got to see these stories grow. But even hearing them all the time, I was like, how's he going to tell it next?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
always evolves. And then you have conversations that I'll just use this example. Like the first time Nicole was on, we were talking about Taco Bell red sauce. So then my buddy Stillwell comes on a few episodes later and he brings red sauce for everybody. It was just
That's
one of those
good,
in-pod moments.
Has a life.
What they call lore. It has its own life.
Yeah.
And it's just, it was fun to get everybody together. We had no idea what we were doing. Caitlin wasn't here, so me and Jason still are trying to figure out where to put the camera. We ended up putting it up in the corner so it could get everybody. But it was a blast. I re-listened. I usually listen to them after they air.
Yeah.
Because I'm afraid if I listen to them before, I'll start cutting stuff
You're
out.
right.
So I'm like,
you got to wait till it gets out.
my
there.
wife actually told me this. She said, "Why you call yourself a free speech advocate, but you're talking about what you're going to edit out of the show?
Yeah.
Because of why?
Yeah.
Other people's opinions, which you say you don't care about.
Yeah.
Like either air it or don't air it.
Right.
But
Run it or not.
I was like, wow, I've never had my own words reflected back at me like that. But
That's the first time she'd ever done that?
No, she doesn't lie.
Okay, I was going to say.
It's the first time that it actually took.
Okay. It was important to you. Talk about your shit.
Right. No, but so now I don't listen to them until they come out. And then because when you're in the moment, we'll remember the high points of this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about this or this, but not the details.
Right.
But now, 10 years later, I can say, man, I remember that time Hal and I talked. Pull it up. There it is. It's a record. I wish I'd have done this with my grandfather.
Right. Yeah.
Right? And that's why I'm doing this, is because I want to. My buddy Jason Green made fun of all my physical media and said, "You're a collector." And he said, "Now you're collecting your loved ones' on media, so you can collect. We're part of your collection now.
Yeah.
It was funny, but it's kind of
It's really true. No,
It's
that's
true.
good. And I think one of the things that you're doing is you're giving men permission for men to be, maybe tell their story, whatever, who they are. Who is this?
That's Hemet. That's our dog. That's
Hi.
literally dying on camera right now.
Oh,
He's
nice, sweet boy.
he's a loud drinker. He's disrupted many a pod, but
I should know who he is, though.
he has been the best, most
Aw.
loyal dog. You know, I had I've never told this story on the pod, but I grew up in Florida as a little kid, and we couldn't have pets because it was a rental house, and all I wanted was a dog. And my family's from Farmington and Prairie Grove, like they're from up here. They moved to get away from their parents, right?
Right.
So, but they wanted me to go to school up here, So when it's time for kindergarten, we moved back up here, and all I wanted was a dog. But we lived in a rental house. We can't have pets, right? So we moved out to the country when I'm like 6 years old, and the first Christmas after we moved there, I got this. It was a golden retriever puppy, and I named him Rudolph because he was red. He was a red-coated, really rare dog. Anyway, it was the most magical moment of my childhood, right? So I grew up with this dog there. We lived there a few years. For financial reasons, my sister was really sick. We had a lot of medical issues. We had to sell that house and move kind of more into town. It was still out. It's on Rays Mill Road, right past the cemetery, if you're heading west.
Really?
Yeah. It's a brick house there. But we moved there, and we lived there for 10 years. But we brought this dog with us, and of course, my best friend. We used to go exploring all over the country, right? And my parents were in having some legal troubles. My sister was in a special needs school, and there was some abuse there. So they were in like some legal things about that. So I would come home and I'd play with him, but he would the slats on the fence were on the inside, and so he would jump the fence and run back to our house 5 miles away, and so we'd have to go to the old farm. So my dad and I would have to go pick him up, and anyway, Dad said, we're gonna have to chain him up. We can't do this every night, So we chained him up. So I come home one day after school. I go out in the backyard. He's not there. I can't find him anywhere. And I'm looking for it, and I look for the chain, and the chain's going up over the fence. So I get up there, and I look down, and he's just hanging, just staring up at me. And it was absolutely traumatic. And from that moment on, I was like, I don't ever want a dog again. For my next birthday, I got a puppy. And I hated that dog. It was like I know what my parents were trying to do. Here's a puppy. And I was like,
see, that's what I mean by
again.
Trauma. You're how
It
old?
was traumatic. I was, I think I was 9 when that happened.
Yeah, and so that's what I mean by a trauma. And whether
Well, it's the
or
same
not-
year my aunt killed herself. So those two things happened with a couple months of each other. And so I'm 9 or 10, and all of a sudden my world just goes
Yep.
pop.
Had a conversation with one of the guys today, giving him right. It's something happened in his family, a death, a sudden death, and he was 9 or 12, and the whole family's response was to go deal with it. But guess where he was? He was left alone to deal with it. I mean, like, they didn't abandon him completely,
Right.
but they didn't think he would have any part in it. But he said my life changed right then from this death and from the response to it by everybody else.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that I think that you are giving some platform to for guys to talk about if they want to when they're here, because you never know who's got that story of your friends that you've known for years. You don't know.
Well, you don't ever think of
You
it that
don't
way.
know
Because
who's
I've
got
had a
those
lot of
stories.
people say, well, you need some more, you need more women on, this and that. And, I'm not opposed to talking to ladies.
Yeah.
I got nothing against it. But most of the guys, I'm a married man. I'm not fraternizing with a bunch of women. So everybody I'm in contact with are men.
So let me say what I met you, briefly with Nicole, and then we had
Hold on.
lunch.
Hold that thought.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a pee break if
Okay.
you need anything.
I'm good.
I
I'll
might
check-
get my ear pierced just to get one of those earrings. That Durham logo is awesome.
Now you got to do a nipple. Do a nipple. Hang it off your nipple. So tell me about you.
What about me?
Well, anything other than the fact that you got sick.
Oh, well, that was just
Where are you from?
better.
How about that?
I grew up in Lincoln, but I just moved to Salem.
So what are you doing hanging out with this guy?
I met him through Nicole.
Oh, so
I
you...
met Nicole through Walmart because of the spark driving, and then I met him through Nicole.
So you're a new friend.
Yeah.
Okay. And so have you got experience doing what you're doing? Or are you getting it?
I'm getting it.
Well, that's good.
Like, I know how to, like, the photography stuff I already know how to do. The video editing and stuff, like, I did it on the side some of my time, but, I mean, now I'm just, like, actually doing it.
You're actually doing it.
Everything. Yeah.
Is this a dream?
It is. Like, this is what I want to do. I want to do all of this. This is fun to me.
That's great. Are you doing some for Nicole, or is that all just Phil?
Oh no, that's all Phil.
Okay.
I do all her photography.
Oh,
So all the, like, the photo that I did for her newest podcast and her season
the
2
cover,
and
the
3.
cover stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all me.
Well, I think so. My little mic stand was in one of those pictures.
Yeah.
She had to borrow a mic stand,
Yeah.
a black one.
It was in
That was in last season's.
Game of Thrones.
Game of
I
Thrones,
was
yeah.
about to say, I think it's the Game of Thrones one.
Yep.
The Game of Microphones.
The game of microphones. That's right.
Yeah.
Not a bad time.
I'm not gonna let this escape. What I'm saying is that, this thing that you might be offering is for the everyday guy like ourselves, to have a chance for stuff to just.
So maybe there is a market for guys just getting together and talking shit.
Yeah, I think so. And here's the thing. So it's kind of up to you. It's your podcast. But what I noticed about you, and this is what I was going to say before you had to go take a piss, when we had lunch,
Yeah.
is that you have what I would call depth, and you're intelligent, but you also have depth. You ask intelligent questions. So a person that I think really is into questions is Elon Musk.
Oh, yes.
He is a question asker.
Yeah.
I think he's brilliant at it.
I do too.
As a matter of fact, I just saw yesterday that he was talking about, that I'm going to try to get into it too much, but he just simply says, you just got to keep asking the right questions.
Yeah.
And I think you do that. And I think if you give guys, and women too, but guys especially, if you ask them questions, I think we're kind of in a place in the world where maybe that what we have inside of us as men that's been kind of kept down, quieted for whatever reason, it needs to come out. And I don't mean opinions, I mean life experiences.
Yep.
Transformational life experiences that are genuine and authentic without an agenda. Because honestly, I have no fucking agenda at all here tonight, except just to be here with you. That is it. There's no agenda. I'm not trying to promote a book. You brought it up. I know you don't have an agenda. I
just wanted to spend time with you. I just want to hang out, man.
Right. And so, but I will say this, and I just want to air it out. It turns my stomach to go and to encounter some of the guys that I used to spend time with. Who?
Okay. What do you mean by that?
Who ask me why I'm not making sure that these guys come to know Jesus and presenting the gospel to these guys.
Really?
Yeah. And it's like every time I talk to them, they want to talk. And there's not that many that I even encounter, but it just is like, it's all they want to talk about.
Because their identity
is in doing the work, in that work.
Yeah. Well, I want to actually get into this with you in a minute, but.
Well, and so it happened again not too long ago. I mean, like in the last couple of weeks, and it's happened with the same person enough that I'm just like, because what's going to happen is he's going to press me on why I'm not gospeling these guys, and then he's going to tell me how much more money I can make doing this if I do it this way,
right?
And getting these big players involved, and
But see, that to me is the problem with humanity, is greed and pushing and how much bigger can I get? At what point does somebody just say, I'm happy where I'm at? You know, and the only
I can
reason
tell you, I'm happy where I'm at.
I'm happy where I'm at.
Yeah, but more is coming.
Sure. But is it out of a sense that I've got to make more money, or is it that I can do better? Like I can improve myself.
The way I see it, honestly, and I do think this is a phase of development. It's what can I help him do better? What can I help you do
Yeah,
better?
but that's an unattainable goal for humanity.
No, it's really not. Not everyone, but him.
Yeah.
That guy right there.
Well, what I see is everybody wants to help someone, and they virtue signal, and there's such hypocrisy behind the messages that they support while acting
that's
completely
just messages.
contradictory.
That's just messages.
Yeah, no, sure, but that's what's visible. That's what I see on TikTok and all the
That's
in
why
the world on social media and the news and
But you don't have that in here, do you?
what's
You don't do that in here.
no
In this. Right. So this is like where it can be real. Whereas that's the virtual.
Well, my buddy
virtue
Drew
signaling
talks
and
about
this.
what he calls the zero world. Nothing on the internet is real.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you break it down, I think that's in the Power Pod when he explains that. But I was going to get back to Power Pod. One of our guests, Jason Green, is one of my best friends, and you know, I always had bullies in school, but they were dumb, right? And I was like, these aren't a match for me. I always wanted a nemesis, somebody that was on my level,
Somebody
but
smart.
we just. And he is absolutely opposed to me politically in a lot of ways and a lot of different things, but we respect each other so much that he asked, you know, he said, why did you advertise me on the podcast as being your nemesis? And I said, because if it ever comes down to it, I want us to fight to the death. You know, you matter that much to me. Like, if it ever went sideways and we were on opposing forces, I want a
it
nemesis
to go
I
all
can
the way to the
respect.
end. Yeah.
You know, you don't want a bad guy that you just walk all
That you
over.
yeah.
But anyway, one of the questions he asked me was, I was talking about masculinity and how masculinity has been lost in the family and we've been over feminized, and he said, but I also said at the same time, you know, emotionalism has gone, you know, I mentioned it earlier, has gone way too far for men. And he asked me what I thought about men crying. I'm like, and I admitted, I was like, I'm a crier. Like, I'll cry during movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have no problem with crying, even in front of my kids. You know?
Me
If
too.
it's a legitimate cause. Like, I don't subscribe to that. If you're a man, you show no emotion.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's I think there's so many different factors that have led us to where we are, but I do think masculinity has kind of been shunned, and it's kind of like the white privilege, white male privilege, or whatever that is, has kind of demonized white males. And I don't think it's racist to say we've got something to offer.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
that doesn't mean you're a white nationalist member of the KKK. It just says you can't control your race or your gender, but I don't have to be demonized for it either. Like, that seems kind of unfair. What do you think about
Well,
that?
I think that's true, but I honestly, I've never encountered anybody who's put the white privilege on me as a label or anything, and I don't pay attention a whole lot to the people who do it. I don't pay hardly any attention at all to people who do it nationally. Now, what bothers me is when my 18-year-old daughter, I make some statement that I'm totally oblivious to, and there's something is working through their system of communication and their belief system. I can't even think of what it is, but I've been told a few times, Dad, you don't have to be hating. And I'm like, how is that? I
was just talking
What did I
shit.
say? What did I didn't even not even just ask a question, you know?
Right.
And so a lot of things I just don't even understand. I was like, well, that's part of your deal, and I'm like, oh, I'm just being me, you know. But
Well, my wife will say a lot of times, well, that's mean. And I'll say, it's true. Why is it mean if it's true? Maybe this
did
situation.
you say it mean?
I probably have.
Yeah, but did
But-
you in that when she said that's mean?
I might have. But it was
So
still
mean
true.
what you say. So mean what you say what you mean, but don't be mean when you say it.
Yeah, whatever mental gymnastics that takes.
Yeah, just-
but as a dad, like, I relate to like my dad and my grandpa's generation is, toughness, but I also am a younger generation who, as a child, you do need nurture as well.
Yeah.
You need both sides. The only privilege I believe a child has is two loving parents in the home.
So do you think guys can nurture? You think men can nurture?
Oh, absolutely. Well, my family's a great example. Like, my wife does not like to be touched. She's not emotionally, or she's not affectionate in that way. Whereas, like, I'm a hugger, I'm a kisser. When I get home, my boys, give me a smooch, and they come give me a kiss, and I hug them.
So was that a masculine?
And my wife's the Italian one. That makes no sense at all.
No kidding. So is that masculine, feminine? What is that, or is that just you being you?
I don't know, man.
See, I think
And
we're
I don't
all.
really care.
I think we are. I know. And
I'm
it's
gonna give
like
my
I don't
boys a
either.
hug.
When people bring it up, I'm like, you know what? I mean, I've been accused of being a lesbian in a man's body. I mean, I've like, how's that? Well, I've even called myself that because, one, I have a lot of gay friends. A lot. Some of the people I love the most in the world are gay.
Yeah, honestly,
and they're
I know
my
a
dearest,
lot.
closest
Yeah.
friends. They've changed my life, and some they've just they're very much truth presenters. Not necessarily they're teaching a truth. I'm not opposed, but they force me to look at myself, and I've had some really do that in beautiful ways. But I've
Have you heard my gay friend story?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think it was on the pod you and I were on. I told it on Nicole's show, though. That I was talking about how I had a lot of gay friends when I was in college. So basically, I grew up in very, right, radical, gays are going to hell kind of environment.
Oh, yeah, well, that's why.
So when I got into the workforce, at 15, 16, workforce, summer jobs or whatever, working at a clothing store, and there's a lot of gay people there. And they were really cool guys, and I just thought these guys were all just destined for hell,
Yeah.
But I became friends with them, and I asked one of them, I was like, so why do you choose to be gay? And he was like, oh, honey, I did not, you think I wanted to be, picked on in school and being persecuted and all this stuff? And basically it was like, it's not a choice. I was born this way. Right. And it was one of those kind of moments going off. Right. You're like, oh, yeah, why would you choose to do that? And anyway, I had a lot of gay male friends when I was in college. And damn near every one of them gave me cocaine and tried to have sex with me.
Right.
And then I was like, okay, that's enough.
Yep. Yeah. Kind of like this, all the guys trying to hit up and, screw all the girls.
But, what I told Nicole
With
was
alcohol.
I understand a little bit of the female experience.
Yeah. A little bit of the female experience. Right.
I couldn't imagine that all the time, though.
Yeah.
But still, I felt like they just wanted me for my body. How?
They probably did.
They can only see it now.
Oh yeah, it's sexy man, sexy man.
What the hell are we talking about?
I don't know.
We're down the rabbit hole.
We
now.
have
That's
gone.
what happens on this podcast.
That's what we do. That's what we do. So
we just go down rabbit holes.
Well, I really, I don't know. I don't have any. I'm very grateful today that I have the life that I have. I have a wonderful wife, and I have some connection, with some of my kids. A couple of them I don't. That's probably the biggest pain, really, for me. The hardest part.
That's something I can't get my head around.
Yeah, I know. I can't get my head around it either. But there's other players involved. There's other opinions involved.
Yeah.
And there's. I also think that resentment and bitterness is a very
Toxic.
very toxic thing. And
I lived with it for a long time.
Yeah, and so it penetrates into generations. So I think there's part of that.
Does,
and but I really love right now what my wife and what we're doing. It's a different life than we thought we'd have. She's taken on this full-time job. She kind of pursued to take on this job with Walton Family Health and wellness, and not going to talk a lot about that because that's her stuff, but I'm proud of her, and we have helped a lot of people with our hemp CBD products, and they're not ours. We don't make them. We distribute them. We help educate on it.
So is CBD legal?
CBD, yeah.
There's no restrictions on it?
None. No. As a matter of fact, it's so much better for you, honestly, for your health. If you're interested in it for your health and for feeling better, for sleeping better, for pooping better, for inflammation reduction, for mental health stuff, for energy, for CBD is the way to go, 100%. You know,
Pharmaceutical companies aren't going to be advertising this anytime soon.
They're excited about synthetic marijuana.
So just to play
Delta
devil's
8, Delta
advocate,
9.
what people are going to say is, well, the FDA doesn't regulate it, so it's not legitimate.
Well, that's what people do say.
Right, I know. That's what I'm saying. Is the FDA is the authority,
And
look what they
which
just
they're
did
in bed
to
with
us.
big pharma.
Exactly.
Yeah, and big money. So
do we need to be trusting the FDA?
No, and we
Absolutely
don't. And
not.
it's a nutritional. It's like taking vitamin C. It's just
Right.
that this does a lot more for you than vitamin C.
Can people find studies are pretty widely available from what I've
all
seen.
over the place now? PubMed. The best resource is probably PubMed.org, because these are doctors and different people giving an opinion on a natural product, which they have done for years. On all kinds of things that are both natural and synthetic or manufactured. But, the way our bodies are made, they have the system in it. It's just underfueled. And so all we're doing is helping people get it fueled. And it makes up for all the deficiencies of all kinds, from anxiety to, we can't make medical claims, but here I am sitting here telling stuff that people deal with. But they can go to their doctors and get a prescription for something, and then it throws them out of balance somewhere else, so they get another prescription for something else.
Boy, you're talking to the boy who's been through it all, man.
Let me tell you, my wife's son, what got her started was he was on 32 different medications by the time he's 23.
Jesus Christ.
Yep. And started with, I don't think like other people do. I don't feel like other people do. Let's write a script for Adderall.
Mm-hmm.
And, a few years later, 32 different meds, and he was not functioning.
Yeah.
And he's a highly sensitive, brilliant, beautiful, big, strong, strapping young man.
Right.
And he was just
debilitated
by what's been approved by FDA.
But let me ask you this, talking about accountability, whose fault is it? Should we be allowing ourselves to be subjected to that? I understand there's the propaganda and the push on us, but do we as a people need to just stop doing that kind of stuff?
Doing what kind of stuff?
And I'm guilty of it, taking prescription medications to feel the right way.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? We need to take some accountability.
So I would say probably 10. I don't know the number because I'm not a doctor, and it's not fair for me to say it. But I would guesstimate that probably 10% of the things that people take medications for, they just need to do some work on, like take sugar out of their diet.
10%?
I'd say 10%.
Only 10?
I don't know. Probably.
I'd say 60, 70.
People really need the medications?
No, I'm saying of people who take medications.
I'm saying only 10% need them.
Then I'd agree with that. Yeah. I thought you were okay. Yeah.
Really need them.
Yes, I agree.
And they won't now. I can see taking some medications for the purpose of getting over a certain situation, but it needs to be like really monitored and directed, and we don't give that. We don't give that help.
Well, let me ask you this. Okay, so I don't know where you fall on the political spectrum, but should opiates be legal?
Should opiates be legal?
Yeah.
They are legal.
Well, I'm saying without a prescription.
I never thought about it. I mean, for what purpose would they have?
If you just want to feel high all the time.
Well, we've got alcohol and
but you
marijuana.
Can't do that at work.
Yeah, you can drink at work.
Boy,
hey, have you ever seen people high on opiates at work? I have.
Not if they're tolerant of them. No, you wouldn't know. They'd have to be pretty damn, like they'd have to be drooling in their chair, I would think.
So what?
I don't know. I'm what I'm getting to is like, you can go to the doctor and get a prescription for everything. So half the people at work are high anyway.
Here's the deal. The insurance is paying for it. So Obamacare changed everything.
Yes, it did.
And it changed everything in the opiate and addiction world.
Yes.
And recovery world.
Yep.
I mean, I've got people dying. I see this as one of the reasons we're doing our housing different, because people can get their insurance pay them to go to treatment for 30 days, then come out, then get housing paid. And it is like, and there are treatment centers right here in town that you can check in. You're dying of your drug addiction. As long as you have insurance, which is government paid insurance,
right?
They're going to charge you for 30 days, whether you leave or not. Wow. And they'll give you a certificate at the end of 30 days, whether you're there or not. Why? Because they collected your insurance at probably couple grand a day.
Don't you see that as a problem?
I see it as a major problem.
But it doesn't stop there. It's in every
Oh yeah.
aspect of American business. So, is capitalism the best way, or have we just found, like?
You mean like big corporate capitalism?
Yeah. Well,
no, it's not the best way.
It can't be. Well, is it the best? Because like, what is better than that now? Because everybody says, well, communism's better if you can do it right.
I don't.
And I believe that communism does work on a small scale.
How do I so when, before all of these things, communism, capitalism, socialism, all of them had its birthing time. It grew, right? It grew over time. So someone had to believe it, someone had to pursue it, someone had to promote it. So my thought is, if we would elevate the consciousness of every human being, starting with you and me, elevating our consciousness, being honest and truthful, and dealing with our shit and helping each other do that, we could raise the consciousness of humankind. And we would probably then, there would be some of this crappy stuff fall away.
But don't you think there are powers that be that don't want?
Oh, 100% don't want that.
That is what,
absolutely.
That, to me, the government and the corporations want to do.
But they couldn't stop an individual from doing that. They couldn't stop me from doing it. I've been in jail 3 times, in the county jail, Washington County. Let me see, 1, 2, 3 times. The last time, well, the first time I was guilty. The second time I was guilty because I was behind on child support. Not because I wanted to be, but sir, I just got behind. The third time I was not guilty. It was a trumped up deal. And but while I was there, it was one of the most peaceful times I've ever had.
Reflection?
I hated it. It was hot and it was cold. I just knew that in my soul that I was okay.
Really?
Yeah.
Because you knew you were innocent, or because
I knew I was innocent, and I didn't really care. Not because I had given up, because I was at peace with who I was and what I had done, and that I knew that the system had come against me. Ultimately, the charges were dropped. It cost me capital. It cost me money. It cost my wife money. For the bail, for an attorney who was a screwball, ended up firing him, getting someone else eventually, and they dropped the charges because they didn't have anything. They just wanted me because they had a headhunter in Springdale hunting heads for people like me. And my wife's ex, not husband, but ex dude, made a false claim against me all the way from Indiana up here in Arkansas, and they said that's what we're looking for right there. So we're gonna get that guy. But point is that after years of being sober and doing the right thing, I'm sitting in Washington County Jail, and with a serious felony charge, potential, a second one, for not complying with their rules, which I'd done for years. And they claimed I'd moved to Indiana, which I hadn't, and so without telling them. And so, but someone in Indiana was telling them that I'd moved to Indiana, so they believed that guy. And they came and got me and said, "We'll just charge him, put him in jail." Anyway, as I sat there, this time, I was at peace. And when I say I fight for, you asked me early on, this peace thing. I hold to my peace. And when I'm around certain people, if I lose my peace, in other words, I'm not going to get mad. I just get irritated. I go to certain places that I used to go, and I can't be at peace there. It's not by what I used to call conviction of the Holy Spirit and that I'm not right. It's that I am right, and I don't fit here. I don't belong here. That's for you. It's not for me.
Do you think there's a value in fighting a system that is so big that you can't affect it?
Fighting it? I don't know. I hadn't thought about fighting it.
Should you fight a corporation?
Well, we've been doing it. So here's the deal. Lisa and I have been doing it for 7 years with this CBD thing. It's one of the biggest. It's a difficult message because people either want their marijuana or they want their medical marijuana or they want their $8 opiate and 6 of them. They want their free medicine and they have to pay for the nutritional CBD. So when you're trying to sell $120 CBD that can truly change a person's life,
Right.
truly change them and deal with the underlying cause, not the symptoms, it's very hard for someone who it's easier to take their $8 prescription and having their doctor say, oh, you don't need that, you need this. And they're in the system. The doctors are in the system. They're prescribing what the system has for them to prescribe. And so we've been fighting it by just going out and trying to educate people on what CBD is, what the endocannabinoid system is, how beneficial it is to the body, to the mind, to the spirit, and all the wonderful things that it does. And it can take the place of a lot of things that we use that are just symptom deals.
But to play devil's advocate, it doesn't get you high.
No, it doesn't get you high.
A lot of people want.
They want to be high. Well,
the
that's a different
high.
story.
Yeah.
But as far as fighting the big system, I would say that we have been trying, because we have something that works for people, that the system doesn't want people to take.
There's a false narrative against what you're trying to do. I know
and so,
for a fact.
And so because of
so
that,
you're having to fight against a
yes,
narrative.
and it's weird. Yeah, and it makes you weary.
Yeah.
Because our model isn't that we buy advertisement at the Super Bowl. Our model is, let me tell you what it did for me.
Do you feel like you're gaining any ground?
We have gained ground. In part because we've been resilient, we're persistent, and stayed with it. Many people have fallen away because, well, they just, they don't have time to do it. And it's a challenge financially to carry the message. But, I mean, in a way, we've kind of been fighting that by being in this industry because it helped me so much and still does.
Right.
I know that I could not do the physical work that I'm doing to remodel this house right now if I wasn't taking what I'm taking, my CBD. And the company came out with a new product. I'm not trying to promote it, even though I don't mind promoting it. But it's a different blend that comes from the hemp plant. It's a different combination. And I noticed the difference, and I've been on product for 6 years. And so I'm very grateful because it's given me the energy. It's helped with my knee joints. I mean, I'm bone on bone, and have been for a long time. And so that I'm healthy. I sleep good. I have still got good sexual function, which I'm happy and makes my wife happy. All of those things.
That gave me a lot of visuals all of a sudden.
All of a sudden, well, we talked about a lot of stuff. So.
And you were sitting next to the dog when you said it. So.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, all the things that you want to be healthy, happy, and whole with.
Yeah.
You can do it more naturally for sure, but big system doesn't want you to do it naturally.
What if you're an employee for a big corporation and they're doing something terrible? Is it worth it to go down fighting and lose?
For you mean a cause?
Yeah, and I wouldn't even call it pride, but for principle. So I think there's a difference between pride and principle.
Sure.
Absolute difference. But fighting a government or a corporation as a citizen or an employee, is it worth fighting knowing you're going to lose and keeping your dignity, or is it worth just saying, I can't win this, I will acquiesce? Is there still honor in a lack of victory?
Well, we're going to keep doing what we're doing. I know that, to help people. But as far as the corporation goes, I don't. It's kind of not my world. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't. Now, there's a chance that in the near future that because of some of the work we're doing with some of this housing, that there may be some people say, well, you can't do that, and you can't do that in my neighborhood, and. That what I would fight for. I would fight.
What's interesting is the judgmentary, can I make that word up, that exists in neighborhoods.
Well,
in people who choose to live around other people.
Yeah.
Want to control what other people do.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not willing to move out of the country and be alone. You want to live amongst other people
and do what you want to do, but you don't want other people to do what they want.
That baffles me. That's why I don't understand the mind. Like, I talk a lot about frequencies. I'm not on the same frequency with somebody who wants to live in a subdivision. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Because I just can't handle it.
Right.
I got to be out here.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't do it. but it's just it's a bizarre thing to me, where you want to like live amongst people but control what they do, like the HOA kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What's at the root of that?
Just control.
For control's sake? I mean,
For the power, I think, power. We need rules to live by, and here are the rules we're going to live by. You sign up for either create your own POA when you build a subdivision, and you have the power to do that. It's going to be attractive to certain people who want those rules. But then when they're enforced, you don't like it. Like, I live in one. I live in one.
Yeah.
I'll park my truck on the street too long. They're going to send me a little note, say, please move your truck. You wouldn't like that at all. You wouldn't do it.
No, I would not.
No,
sir.
I know. I know you wouldn't. I know you wouldn't. But
Yeah.
at the same, so I'm not. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
Well,
But what is it? Does it offer you a sense of community? Because it feels like to me that a lot of people who live in neighborhoods.
Well,
don't even
like
know
for
their
me,
neighbors.
for me, the house we bought a place where it was close to the school for my daughter to run over there to school and all the stuff she was involved in at school.
Yeah,
So it was convenient for us,
that's fair.
and it was a good. Frankly, it was a good buy.
Yeah.
So I saw it as an investment.
Sure. No, I get that.
I've done that a while. I've owned a lot of properties over the years, even when I didn't think I would ever own property again, because of financial changes.
Well, we're in a kind of an uncertain financial climate right now,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't want to give financial advice on a podcast or anything, but like, what would there's a lot of question about the stock market, gold. You see a lot of gold and silver ads right now, property investments. Like, what do you put your money into?
Real estate.
You think real estate?
Yeah.
But the market around where we live is just
So are you? If you want a quick turnaround,
yeah.
then you have to be super careful. But there's still, if you real estate is.
They're not making any more land.
They're not making any more land, and it's
You fact check
it's
that,
been,
Caitlin?
It's just been. We don't live in Northwest Arkansas in a place that it'd be a concern at all.
Yeah.
At all. So I don't know. It's we have some stock investments and that sort of thing. I had $86 in my bank account, Brad, when I met Lisa 7 years ago. $86 in my bank.
7 years ago?
7 years ago. I
Wow.
had $86 in my bank account.
That's a hell of a story, dude.
Tell me about it. And lots changed since then. But part of it was from the hemp business. A big part of it was, but also the freedom.
all of it was from you picking your ass up off the ground and
But
going at
I
it.
did. I lived that way though from 01 to we met in 18, so 17 years of me working my ass off three or
But
four.
still, you
different
could
jobs.
have given up. You could have said, "I'm never going to be."
And there were
anything more than
times.
this."
There were definitely times. There were times.
But that's what's impressive to me about you.
When
Al, is that you didn't give up.
I didn't give up, and part was because I had children who were looking at me.
That's a big part.
And
of
I had people at that point. By the time
Yeah.
that those feelings of wanting to give up, they weren't early on.
it. Yeah.
The giving up, I was determined. I felt free on my being honest. Like for the first time, I was liberated by literally being honest with some of the wrong people, like state troopers. But I wouldn't recommend it. I would not recommend doing what I did.
No, please don't.
No, but I do recommend finding someone like me and say, hey, I got some stuff I need to tell somebody, and what they're going to hear from me is, I understand.
I remember my mother and I used to always argue about religion. She's a very devout Episcopalian, and I didn't buy into any of it, and I always found it interesting that the preachers and the people I felt like were talking to me had never sinned in their life, and it just didn't feel like a fair deal. It's like, well, if you haven't hit rock bottom, or if you haven't dealt with addiction or of any kind, or some kind of abuse or something, then it's kind of easy to tell people how to live their life if everything's been perfect. But I always trusted people with experience,
Yeah.
people who had the shit had hit the fan.
Well,
And I feel like the shit hit your fan.
yes, it has
And
more than
that's
once, but
one of the things I respect about you is
I
that,
appreciate that.
you could, really just give up and say, I'm going to go back into the things I was doing because that's comfortable and easy. But
Well,
you found a way to.
yeah, but it wasn't for me. It wasn't comfortable for me.
to go back into it.
I couldn't imagine going back to what I had before. That
You were so just kind of disgusted with that.
it was very painful for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was never fun. My partying was never fun.
Really?
No, I was escaping.
You were just pure
was
escaping.
escaping.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there's gradients of that.
Sure,
'Cause I'm not really
absolutely.
escaping. I just
No. I'm just saying for me.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
So why did you drink to begin with? What were you drinking?
Changed the way I felt. What did I drink?
Well, we yeah.
What
Well,
I-
no, I mean, why did you drink?
Changed the way I felt.
Right, but you wanted to
I couldn't
feel nothing,
identify.
or you wanted to feel good.
I just knew that I wanted to change the way I felt.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I couldn't put my finger on it until I got to treatment. Until I got to treatment, then it was like, okay, I could see how that would cause shame.
I'm sitting here thinking, somebody told me that recently, and it really resonated. I think it was you when we were
At
eating
dinner.
at Gabriella's. You said you drink to change the way you feel, and
That's
it really
me.
resonated with me.
That's why I didn't think I was an alcoholic, because I didn't drink that much.
Yeah.
I mean, I had vodka under the seat with cranberry juice, but and we got when I would have to play golf, I'd not only drink beer, but I'd hit the vodka before I,
Right.
But by that time, the shame was building up, and just other things were kicking in, and some things were coming back from childhood, and just the shame and living a double life that I just didn't know how to get out of, and so I was drinking to change the way I felt, and I didn't know that would qualify me to be an alcoholic until I got to the treatment center. And about 2 or 3 weeks into being there, I was in a meeting that was at the treatment center, and we read the part of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and it actually says, alcoholics essentially drink to change the way they feel. And I'm like, well, fuck, that's me.
Yeah.
That's me. And so the next time I went to a meeting there for Alcoholics Anonymous, I was able to say, I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Based upon what? Not how much I drank, not what I drank, when I drank. It was, I drank to change the way I felt. And then
So
when I
that-
did that, it would turn into other things.
That
If
is literally the difference between alcoholism and social drinking.
Yeah, huge difference. And for me, and a lot of alcoholics, when they try to change the way they feel, they can't catch that feel. They keep chasing it. They don't have an off button, so they go way beyond the mark.
I would disagree
We
strongly.
go way beyond the mark.
I would disagree.
You disagree with what?
Well, you're talking about when you change how you feel, you go beyond the mark.
Yeah, you go beyond the mark. I want to change just enough.
Right. But I feel like that can be controlled.
If you're not an alcoholic.
No, I think I'm an alcoholic, but I think I found a balance.
Oh.
That I can live with both my wife and myself and not feel guilty.
Well,
But I still think I'm an alcoholic. Because if I didn't have alcohol, I wouldn't be doing this podcast. I'd be too scared.
so it's your
I'm
courage.
a child. No, when I've gone long stretches without alcohol, and I hate who I am. Like it's almost like Popeye and his spinach.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And with light beer, I can get exactly where I want to be.
Right.
And Scott actually said this on a podcast. He was talking about we're talking about degrees of alcoholism, and he said, if you're going to be an alcoholic, drink like beer, because if you feel like you're getting out of control, all you got to do is stop drinking for 30 minutes, and you're fine.
And you can do that.
And whereas if you're a whiskey drinker, there is no coming back.
Yeah.
You go to the monster, and you're already there.
Yeah.
There's no coming back. But I've always tried to perfect this science of, like, how much can I drink and function, because I hate who I am without it. But I look forward to the time of the day when I can have a drink.
Right.
Because all day long I'm scared and indecisive, and I'm faking it.
Mm-hmm.
But when I have a few beers, I feel like me.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I used to feel that way, and now
Yeah.
I've found that I don't have to use the alcohol
Yeah. No.
to deal with the fear.
Yeah, that's probably
deal with the
next
scare.
step in my evolution.
Very
But-
well could be, or not.
Yeah, I don't
it-
know.
But it could be. And I will say this, that what I've discovered, and many other people have, is that fear underlies so many things in everybody's life, and how
Everything.
we deal with it.
I think
And
it's our ultimate guiding.
It's fear or faith, one of the two.
Yeah,
That's
I
it.
agree.
And
I
so
agree.
if my solution is found in that can and I can't get to it, what do I do between now and then?
Right.
Well, I'm miserable, I'm pissy, I'm sad, I'm scared
Sure.
of all these things, and I can't do this, I can't do that. And so now I'm going to, instead of 5 o'clock, it's 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
And for me, it became noon, it became 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Or before he teed off, or when my wife went away, I'm going to load up. When she went away for the weekend with the kids, I'm going to load up, and I'm going to really feel good this weekend. But but what I have found is that it's really more of a spiritual thing, not a physical thing. It's a spiritual principles to operate with how you deal with fear. And it's taken a while to get that in place in me, to where today, when I'm afraid, I say, what's that about? Well, I want to be in control of a situation that I'm not in control of right now, and I don't know the outcome. So what do? Well, I can hold on to that and worry about it, fret on it, fear on it, or I can go, I really never had any control over that anyway. I've done my part. I'm going to turn it over to God, and if it's still bugging me, I'm going to go look for somebody to like serve. Like, what can I do for you? And fear goes away, and the situation that doesn't go away permanently. It goes away till the next time.
Yeah.
But what I used to have to do was use. And unfortunately for others, some of my drinking led to, when I had fear and some of those things, because of the way I was wired on sexual stuff, I would use that in the same way some people use alcohol.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
that became then,
Yeah.
that became harmful to others. And once I understood that, then it's like, okay, now I really want to deal with my fear, because I don't want to get in that situation. I want to deal with my stuff. And have resources to help me with that through
Right.
AA and friends and my own spiritual. I mean, I have a practice that I do every day in the morning. That's how I start my day, and it's different than what I grew up with. I guarantee you.
What do you do?
Well, I read from several different resources. Then I think about them. Then I meditate. I sit quiet and meditate, and I don't read anything that offends my peace.
Meditation is really underrated.
Yeah. And it's not what people think it is. It's intention. It's not attention. So I'm going to sit my ass down for 8 minutes, 10 minutes, 22, whatever the number is, and I'm going to sit there. And if my mind goes off, running off in different places, I'm okay with that.
But yes.
I'm sitting. It's my intention to be there.
Allow that train of thought to go where it needs to go. It's almost like an animal that's chasing a scent or something. There's something at the end of that trail.
Yeah,
So
and even if there's not, I'm not frustrated with my inability to meditate.
Yeah. Well, meditation to me was always marketed as the hum.
Anti-Christian for sure.
Well, I never saw it as any ideology.
Well, that's what
but
I was
just
taught.
like this, just kind of I don't know, beads and incense and kind of a hippie thing. And I never really appreciated it until I started doing it. But it's pretty important,
Yeah,
and it helps me get to sleep.
it's
night
become
once
a
I've
big
started.
part of my.
Just following a train of thought, thinking it through, thinking the evolutions, what are the multiple paths from this outcome. I think it's very valuable, and I don't think a lot of people spend a lot of time in an introspective space where they're really looking inside of themselves and saying, what can I do better? How can I improve? Because I'm probably harder on myself than anybody. I mean, good Lord, how many people are contacting you, man? You're like
I got to pick up some furniture.
Ernie Penn over here, the mayor of Farmington.
No, I got to pick up some furniture. I told him I'd be there.
You think I can get Ernie on the pod?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once he gets all healed up.
I think so too. What's going on with it? I don't really know.
I don't know either. I really don't.
Yeah.
I just know he's not backing office yet.
Yeah.
So
He's a good dude. He got us our loans on all our stuff.
That's a
He
good
went
deal.
to school with my dad. So,
Okay.
Yeah, they went to Prairie Grove
he's a
together.
good guy.
He is a good
I
guy.
knew his parents, and
Yeah.
they were in our church, and so. No, I got a guy on Marketplace saying, "Where are you?" Or I thought you were coming to pick up this furniture.
Do you need to go?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So.
We'll wrap it up.
All right. How do we do that? Do we sing Kumbaya? Or
No,
anything?
we just shake hands and say that was
That was a great podcast.
that was too short. Next time, don't make any other plans. We gotta go longer.
Okay.
Clear your night.
Well.
I got 2 more podcasts to just talk to you about. You'll come on again. I hope.
Absolutely will.
Thank
And
you.
hopefully, I will have my book done by then, and it'll be out. So
Yeah, and then we
it'll
can
be
do a little promo,
good.
and
Absolutely.
you can advertise to all the losers that watch this podcast.
They're not losers. You know that. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, bro. It was awesome. Caitlin, thank you.
Kevin, thank you.
We didn't need you tonight.
No.
She's doing her own thing.